Hi everyone, welcome back to If My Heart Had Wings, episode 33, and the progress again the glider back into the sky is going much better than anticipated, and it's all thanks to Tatsuya. So he's an old hand at building machines like this, and I always surprise Tatsuya was part of the Soaring Club before he graduated. And that's why he knows Amane very well. So also, Amane got a place to stay in the Flying Fish Manor. And it's better than the garage because the Flying Fish Manor has food and, more importantly, lodging, so bed and shower. And I also noticed that this game skipped over a selection screen. So I'm playing this the first time around, and that's what the game does. But if I did come back to it after completing one of the routes, that screen will pop up. And I think that's where I get the option of whether or not I'll go to the Amane route. And I know that I cannot access the Amane route right now until I complete the Kotori route. But anyways, it's now the next day, and for some reason Hotaru has come to the Flying Fish Manor. And let's see what she wants. So, hello?
Hi!
So who is it? And once again, Kanako shows up in her underwear to a guest. Okay, so even Kotori calls out on Kanako for that. Well, I'm wearing something. But once again, it's a problem. So you must be Habane-san, right? Yeah. So my name is Kotori Habane. So I'm looking for Ageha. Oh, okay, so it looks like Kotori calls Ageha by her first name, not Himegi-san. So Ageha brought Hotaru into the dining hall where everyone was having breakfast. Oh, okay, so, new clothes? So what did the mom say? So she's gonna be upset. So I was like, well, why did you not let me know, or you should have planned this ahead. Oh, Hotaru. So you want some breakfast? Okay, Seiko. Hey, okay. So I wonder if Amane's envious of having good nutrition compared to her. So it's been a few days since the dormitory became our camp. It's become our routine for everyone to get together to eat breakfast. Well, it's really lively so it makes it feel more like a camp. Also today, we have a special need to have a good breakfast. So it's going to be another heavy work day on that glider. So unlike usual, today's work will be a test of our endurance.
外は快晴か。また一段と暑そうね。ねえ、妹ちゃん、どうだった？
So hey little sister, how's the temperature outside?
すごくいいお天気でした。もう日焼け止め塗っとかないとやばいかな。あ、そうだ。あんたも暇なら手伝ってよ。いいよ。私にできることならだけど。
Okay. And I like how Hotaru is being all nice and helping out.
できるできる。誰でもできるけど、人手がいるんだ。また翼を磨くの？
So is it going to be back at polishing the wings?
今日はね。
So it looks like they have something else planned for today.
滑走路を作るのよ。
Oh, okay.
滑走路を作る？
A runway.
ここが滑走路だ。
So we stared at the wide, open, empty lot, overgrown with lush grass, in complete bewilderment. So obviously, to an average person, this does not look like a runway of any kind. But at least we see some windsocks, which tell the direction and speed of the wind.
ここ全部私たちできれいにするの？
So well, we have to clean this place up, right?
ああ、そうだ。
Yeah.
覚悟してたこととはいえ、実際に見るとおじけづくわね。
So we were on the verge of completing the main wings, so we're finally getting ready for the test flight. And this was one of those things, the construction of a runway. In the grassy fields on the other side of the lake was a wide, flat area with no gradients. So basically, this is flat, there's no slopes or any kind. And no hills. So when we heard the word runway, we all imagine it to be paved with asphalt, like an airfield. So obviously when you think of runway, you think of like those runways at the airport. They have lines, they have the threshold, they have numbers, they have lights. And that's where you see all those jets taking off.
やはり夏場は雑草の成長が早いな。
But then again, I'm sure for a glider like this, there's no need to have a paved runway. So amongst them were overgrown weeds that would need cutting down. And while making a glider, we'd be making a runway too. We have to tidy this place up. And that's why we call it, or we will call for something.
なんで俺がこんなことしなきゃなんねえんだよ。
And sadly, they pulled Masatsugu into doing this work as well.
そんなこと言っていいんだ。エリちゃんにあんたの恥ずかしい秘密ばらすわよ。
Okay, so why don't you help us, or we can reveal one of your secrets to Eri-chan, his girlfriend that he wants to show off or show people off with. And well, never mind. But then again, you can't be blackmailing someone, especially that Masatsugu is not part of the Soaring Club.
あんたこそ余計なことベラベラ喋って、本当ならお尻キックかましてやるところよ。
Well, then again, that's what you get for showing off. You're trying to make everyone feel all bad that they don't have a hot or cute girlfriend like you.
ぱこいつ中身は男だよ。
So Ageha had persuaded Masatsugu to come with us.
さすがにきつそうだけど頑張るっきゃないか。
And for some reason, Kanako gets pulled along as well. So, as a condition for preparing her meals through the summer holidays, Kanako has come to help us too. So now she has a condition. It's like, well, you have to help us if you want me, Aoi, to make something for you.
私にできるかな。
So unfortunately for her, Hotaru, who had come to bring a chain of cloves for Ageha, was brought along too. What about Hat? And then there was Hat. So ducks eat weeds, so we didn't need to force him. We just brought him out for a stroll. But isn't this private property?
ああ、そうだ。この広場の所有者はソアリング部の OB らしい。
So I wonder who owns this place. So this person is one of the old members of the Soaring Club from before Amane and the others revived it.
定期的に草刈りをすることを条件に無償で貸してくださっている。
I was like, well, here you go. You can have this field, and well, it is grown with weeds, so you might want to take care of it before you use it. Wow.
それじゃ始めましょう。無駄口叩いてたら日が暮れちゃうわよ。
So at the command of Kotori Habane, second in charge of the club, we began cutting the grass. So being in such sweltering heat makes it all the more difficult. So here there's nothing to block the direct sunlight, and the wind blowing from the direction of the lake only slightly cools us down. Oh, it's so hot. And the towel wrapped around my head in place of a hat is already drenched in sweat. So we all need to make sure we don't get heat stroke. So make sure you get plenty of water, and so it's said that you must take on fluids at regular intervals. There you go. So on a day as hot as today, it is best to drink something before you start to feel thirsty. Yep.
もうダメ。ちょっとコンビニ行ってきていいか。
And I wonder if Masatsugu is trying to find a way out of doing this work.
情けないな。男の子でしょ。
こちとらバイトとバンドと恋に夢中なもやしっこなんだ。
So Kotori, are you okay?
平気よ。お尻が超ムレムレだけど。
But it is getting hot, and the heat's going all over my back from the wheelchair. So I thought that it might be impossible for Kotori, who's in a wheelchair, to do the weeding, but even so, she wanted to do it anyways. Okay. I was worried that she, without thinking of the conditions, would get carried away and collapse. Okay, so here's some sports drink.
Thank you.
So what happened to Hotaru? Wait, what is it, Hotaru? Oh, okay, bug. So Grasshopper came running out of the grass that she was about to cut. Oh, it's just a grasshopper. So Hotaru is hiding behind me, scared. I caught the grasshopper and put it down in an area that we had finished cutting. So don't get caught by Hat. He'll eat you. So ducks love eating grasshoppers. Oh, okay.
ありがとう、青鬼。
So Kanako, using a lawnmower that Ageha had borrowed from a local farm, was cutting down the long weeds along one side. And as long as they aren't long enough to get entangled around the wheels, it's no problem. So there's no need to pull them out from the roof, or like the root.
ほらハット先輩邪魔だよ。ミンチになっちゃうよ。カッカッ。
So thinking of the lawnmower is a living thing, Hat sometimes tries to mess around with it.
ねえ葵くん、その子をどっか連れてっといて。
Oh, no problem. So I don't think Hat likes it when I was trying to move him somewhere else that's safe. So Hat, who doesn't want me to pick him up, there you go, starts going crazy as I take him away. Alright, so here should be okay.
やあハット。はあ。
Hello? Amane again. So Amane, can you take care of him?
おう、いいぞ。
So Amane, who usually just stays in the garage, is really throwing herself enthusiastically into cutting the grass today. And that reminds me, that time when you did the test flight before, it took off from here, right?
そうだ。
Yeah. So how was the grass that time?
私と顧問の山野辺先生とでやった。必要な部分だけだが。
So I was like, well, it was okay back then. There were some places that needed to be fixed and it wasn't too difficult. Oh, the advisor?
おう、顧問だ。
Well, I guess that clubs usually have one of those. I'm sure every club needs to have an advisor of some sort. And the advisor is usually a faculty member of the school. But I haven't seen him once. So, Ageha?
お、何？
So, do you know about this person named Yamanobe-sensei?
ああ、あの若い男の先生。頼りなくてひょろっとしてる？
So he's our advisor.
うん、知ってるよ。
Well, I know about that. She knew about that, as I should have expected. So why does he not come to see our club activities?
前の顧問の先生が定年退職なさって、代わりに顧問になってくれたのが山野辺先生だ。
Okay.
先生はグライダーについては素人だし、あまり興味もないようだ。
And I have a feeling that they just found some random person to be the advisor. So the original advisor was a better one. He's experienced and he has interest in gliders, but he retired and the replacement was just, well, find somebody else because if there's no advisor, then the club is not a legit club and it can't be shut down.
あの先生事なかれ主義だからね。飛岡先生に頭上がらないし。
And obviously, there's no way he could go up against the more powerful Tobioka-sensei. So she got that teacher to help out, then did the test flight.
うん。山野辺先生は人手が足りない時だけ協力してくれるんだ。グライダーを飛ばすには一人では無理だからな。
Okay. So I don't know what kind of person this Yamanobe-sensei is, but he might be in a difficult position, and it definitely looks like there would be no end in his worries, or to his worries. So she probably didn't want to burden him with anything. So as I thought about that, I worked hard at building the runway. So I realized that everyone was covered in dirt, and it seemed that today's bath would feel real good. And in that manner, the preparations for the test flight gradually proceeded. So we were doing everything for the first time, and we took to even the tedious jobs with a feeling of freshness. And then one day in August. So what's going to happen now? At long last. Oh, okay, so it looks like it's pretty much ready to go.
できた！
So the main wings were finally completed. All dried, all polished, ready to be installed. So everyone looked at the giant white painted wings with a feeling that it is indescribable. So many things happened for us to get this far. So how does Kotori feel about the glider now that it's pretty much ready to go?
やったね、小鳥。
So Kotori looks tearful due to all the emotions. So what are you getting all tearful about?
だって私こんなに頑張ってそれがちゃんと形になったのってもうずっとなかったから。
So I know how she feels. However, it's still too early, right?
そうそう、そういうのは飛んでからにしようよ。
So it's like, well, it's ready for flight, but why don't you save the rest of the emotions after it's airborne, or it goes airborne once?
そうね。
So Kotori wipes her eyes on her arm and renews her motivation.
歪みもない。表面も限りなく滑らかだ。
And looks like Amane's doing final inspections and it's like, okay, this is all good. Nothing is going to create problems. So Amane looks uncharacteristically serious as she checks over the two completed main wings. So distortions inhibit the normal flow of air, reducing lift. And also unevenness and scratches on the surface, even those so fine that they cannot be seen by the naked eye, cause friction and create drag.
いい翼だ。
Okay, so good. So with Amane's seal of approval, Ageha and Kotori high-five each other and punch the air. It's like, all right, we did it. All great. At the same point, these two had formed a great partnership. So not only they were able to get the critical components all ready to go in perfect condition, they were able to get along, in contrast to what happened before when they were arguing.
これで飛べるのよね。
So, airworthy now?
ああ、飛べる。
So finally, we can do the best test flight. Or like we can do the test flight starting tomorrow. Okay, so they brought the glider out to the supposed airfield. It's early morning. It is finally time for the test flight. In order to do that, we have to take the glider to the runway. And you put the glider on a special trailer, and so it had it towed by a truck.
ようやく完成したか。
So even Tatsuya is quite excited about this glider. So Anshan, who had brought the small truck inside the school from the factory, spoke quietly to himself when he saw the wings that had been loaded onto the trailer. And by the way, we received permission for Anshan to bring his truck into the school grounds. So this was the first time I had seen the advisor Yamanobe-sensei. And as I imagine, he was an honest and good person, but he seemed a little timid.
できたよ、あーちゃん。
Okay, so all loaded, all ready to go? So Ageha lifted her head to let us know that the trailer had been connected to the truck.
トレーラーの中で機体が擦れたりしないようちゃんとチェックしとけよ。
Okay, so make sure the wings aren't safe, so it does not get damaged by the rough ride of the truck and the trailer. So the glider had been separated into several parts and loaded into the trailer. And if they aren't firmly secured, or if there's any friction during transportation, it's possible that it may be damaged.
ここちょっと緩いんじゃない？
Ageha, so can you grab a towel? So put the towel into the gap to act as a cushion. Okay, so that should work.
よし、じゃあ行くか。助手席はハバネさん。あとは荷台に乗り込め。
Okay, so the rest of you, just watch and make sure the glider parts don't hit the wall or rub against each other.
お前ら、手を貸してやってくれ。
So Ageha and I lift Kotori and put her down in the passenger seat.
私も後ろが良かったな。
Well, it is kind of sad that I have to sit alone in the front seat, whereas all of you get to be in the back together. So Kotori grumbled a little. I can't say I don't know how she feels. And Ageha and I take her wheelchair and get into the cargo bed of the truck.
準備はいいか？
So ready?
オッケーだよ。
All set.
よーし、出発だ。
Here we go. So he starts the engine and the truck tows the trailer along. So it looks like Amane's at the airfield already and she's waiting for the glider to arrive. So as we arrive at the runway, Amane, who had gotten here first, waved her hand to greet us. So Anchan parked the truck next to the runway and we jumped out of the cargo bed. So how was the ride? I've always wanted to ride in the cargo bed of a truck.
いいな、二人とも。
I'm jealous. So we helped Kotori, who seemed quite dejected, out of the passenger seat and into the wheelchair. And while we do that, Anchan disconnected the trailer from the truck.
達也。
Oh,
よ、アマネ。
hello.
すまないな、手伝ってもらって。
なーに、いいってことよ。あいつらのためならな。それに、俺だって無関係じゃないだろ。何せ OB なんだからな。
So I like how he mentions that, well, I am technically a club member, I'm just a former club member.
そうだったな。
本当はこいつが飛ぶところを見ていきたいんだが。
So Anchan, are you gonna leave then? So why don't you stay back and watch this glider take to the skies? So I was listening from a little further away, but I couldn't help butting in.
これから仕事なんだ。
Unfortunately, I have work to do, so I can't stay back and watch.
あんちゃんにも見てほしかったな。
大丈夫だ。ここで飛べばうちの工場からも見える。
So I think there's a huge backlog for him, and he has to work on it.
絶対見ててね。
But I can just watch it from the factory windows.
ああ。だからしっかりやれよ。
So Anchan gives a great big smile and then goes to leave in the truck. And as soon as Anchan leaves, we immediately begin the assembly. Okay, so get the wings onto the glider, make sure all of the flight control surfaces are working, and so the aircraft is still in pieces on the trailer. And first we put the fuselage on the ground and then we take out the 2 main wings. So Kotori, keep an eye out and make sure it doesn't hit anything.
オッケー。
So Ageha, Amane, and I lift up one of the main wings and attach it to the fuselage.
風に気をつけてくれ。そよ風程度でも翼は揚力を発生させてしまうからな。
So be careful with the wind. So if a strong wind were to blow straight into this, the lift generated would end up setting the wing and us with it flying. And after attaching the main wings, the next part is the horizontal stabilizer.
ゆっくりね。ゆっくりだよ。
So you carefully assemble it, making sure not to bump it into anything else and scratch it.
おお。
So standing in front of the completed glider, we are all filled with deep emotions.
こんな風になるんだ。
Oh, so this is what it looks like when it's all completed, everything installed, and wow, so it's big. So by putting it all together, the huge wingspan impresses Aoi.
でも綺麗。
Until now, we didn't really know what it would be like to see the full view of our very own flying machine. And compared to the regular planes that we are all familiar with, it looks kind of odd. In particular, the usually long wings that we had completed the day before looked really unbalanced compared to the slightly stubby looking fuselage. But then again, that's one of the characteristics of a glider. They have really long wingspan. And I wonder, looking at each part and knowing that in order to fly, there is a reason for all of it, I feel like something incredibly beautiful, or it feels like something incredibly beautiful.
チェックを始めるぞ。
Okay, so checks. So Amane, holding the printed out checklist in one hand, gives out instructions to everyone.
工具は揃っているか？
Okay, so tools.
全部ありま
So before we fly, we have to make sure that we have all the tools used in assembly. If there's anything missing, it's possible that it's still attached to the aircraft. Okay. So in such an event, it could cause a huge accident.
す。車輪の空気。
So tires, air pressure. Okay, so check, that's good. And I wonder how the threads are.
ピトー管詰まってないか？
So pitot tubes.
大丈夫よ。それから
So there's a wide range of different things to check. So the pitot tubes, they're important because they provide information to pretty much all the instruments in the aircraft. And block pitot tubes have caused accidents in the past for commercial jets. Because what it did was that it caused the readings to be off, and that confused the pilots. And once pilots start to distrust the computer and the instruments, it poses a real hazard. But most commercial airplanes, they have 2 or 3 pitot tubes. Or I'm not sure if they have 4, but I think it's usually 3. And they all cross-check with each other. So we check for wear and tear on the aircraft, and even check to see if any bugs have made nests somewhere. And at a glance, some of it might seem silly, but when we consider that we'll be flying through the air in this thing, we can't really say that. So basically, they want to make sure it is perfectly safe, there's nothing wrong with it before it takes off. Because if there are problems, this is the time to have it fixed versus when it's in mid-flight. So for example, if a bug forms, so if a bug jams one of the instruments, it could possibly have a negative effect on the glider or like the pilot, and it may cause an accident. And that's why we must check these things before the flight. So by assembling the glider and doing all the checks ourselves, we are able to gain a deeper understanding of the glider. Amane said that she had made some revisions to a checklist made by one of the old members.
じゃあ次はポジティブコントロールチェックだ。
So check flight controls. As she says that, Amane gets into the cockpit.
右エルロン。
Okay, so right aileron. So the rest of us standing outside go to the part that she calls out. In this case, it's the right aileron, and hold on to it, making it hard to move. So Maya moves the yoke to operate the aileron. At this time, if the yoke can be moved with no resistance whatsoever, it is possible that the couplings between the yoke and the aileron have been cut. And if this were in a car, it would be like moving the steering wheel and the wheels are not turning. Well, needless to say, that would be extremely dangerous. Obviously true. So these checks are also carried out on the rudder and the elevators. So it looks like all the flight control services are good.
じゃあ今度は葵くんが後部座席に乗ってくれ。
So Amane gets out and I sit in the back seat. So what is he going to check now? So we repeat the same checks. Okay, so it looks like the rear control yoke also controls the ailerons, elevator, and rudder, and they want to make sure that this control yoke also works.
フラップ、ダイブブレーキもバッチリよ。
So flaps, dive brakes, good. So now that the assembly checks have all been completed, I get out of the cockpit. And now everyone lines up for the briefing.
今日は風も穏やかで、テストフライトにはちょうどいい日だな。
So wind is calm, and it's a perfect day for a test flight. I think Amane should be telling them what the wind speed is, and what direction it's coming from, and other weather conditions that might affect the glider. Amane, who would normally explain the precautions at this point, speaks with a gloomy look on her face that contradicts the things she is saying.
だから怖がる必要はないぞ。きっとうまくいくからな。
And I wonder if they have a flight plan or something, or they're just gonna go up and fly wherever they want to, and then land when they feel like it's over, or like they're finished.
怖がってるのあまねちゃんでしょ。
Come on, Amane. So Kotori speaks quite tactlessly, and Amane freezes up. And then, okay, so what's the problem now? She started trembling. It's like, so what am I supposed to say? What is I supposed to mention?
風がないとグライダーは飛ばない。そういう意味じゃ、今日はフライト日和とは言えないな。
So unfortunately, it looks like if the wind's calm and there's not really much wind, then I think we may have to abort the flight. Hey, what are you talking about?
ちょっと小鳥、どうすんのよ。いや、どうって言われても。 よーし、今日は中止にしよう。組み立ての練習ができたんだからもういいよな。
So I guess we should just cancel today's flight because well, at least you had some experience at what it takes to prepare a flight.
こーら、何言ってんの。ここまで来たら普通飛ぶでしょうが。
It's like, well, unfortunately, the weather conditions are not right for a glider flight, so we have to cancel it. And that's really common in real aviation.
いや、君たちはまだ初心者だから知らないだろうが、グライダーのフライトには本来もっと荒れた日の方が。
So I think we should wait until there's more wind before you guys try to fly this machine.
あまねちゃんがビビってるだけでしょ。だってそういう時は手のひらにひとって字をたくさん書いて飲み込めばいいのよ。やだ、そんな迷信信じないぞ。
So I wonder what they're gonna do now. So she sounded like a kid when she said that.
大丈夫ですって。風が穏やかな方が安定して飛べるだろうし。
Well, I think it might work. There is some wind, just not a lot. Well, I think so too.
やだ、怖い。
I wonder if it's because the fears of Amane are starting to kick in. Because we do know that she has flown the glider before and she pretty much crash landed. And I think all those memories are coming back to Amane and she's worried. Oh, she said she's scared.
しょうがないわね。アゲハ、葵くん。
Well, I guess, So Kotori's signal, Ageha and I hold Amane firmly from each side.
うわ、何をする。すみません、あまね先輩。
Okay, so it's for your own good.
やめろ、離せ。
So while we hold on to Amane as she struggles against us, Kotori writes the Chinese character for a person on the palm of her hand a ridiculous number of times.
人人人人人人人人。こんだけ書けば十分でしょう。
So I wonder what's that going to do? And then Kotori takes a run up. Hey, there's no need to take a run up.
やだ、のら
So what's next? So rather than making her eat the person characters, Kotori slaps her right in the face. This is just the kind of thing that happens pro wrestling where three bad guys team up to hurt one of the good guys.
これでどう？少しは怖くなくなったでしょ？
So does that help now?
鼻が。
My nose. So having some of that fighting spirit slapped into her, Amane holds her nose.
ちょっと効きすぎたかしら。
Well, I guess it worked. So why did you slap her, or why did you slap her in the face like that?
あまね先輩の鼻が縮んでフィッシンが台無しになったらどうすんの？
Oh, now it looks bad. You ruined her beautiful appearance. This is totally crazy. So, Amane, are you all right?
平気だ。ありがとう、みんな。少しだけ勇気が出たよ。
Okay, so I have some confidence back. What? So, giving a little smile, Amane walks towards the winch. Okay then, so I guess we'll fly this machine.
よし、成功ね。
So for Kotori, you shouldn't have went that far to knocking some sense and confidence into Amane. and she gets 2 chops.
先輩は私のアイドルなんだからね。うたた、何を二人して。
Okay, so one from Mayoi, one from Ageha. It's like, hey, you ruined her face. So Kotori chased after us as we went off ahead. So on one side of the runway, a huge thing that looks like a household generator. And this is the winch. So a glider has no thrust of its own, cannot fly into the air by itself. And there are a few different ways for it to take off. A method using the towing plane is often used, in which a regular plane tows the glider into the air where it's released. I'm sure that's how people see it, and that's usually what people see when they see a glider go into the air. So this can be done if you can get it to a certain altitude to begin with. But I'm sure renting or having some pilot fly a tow plane to lift the glider into the air, that's going to be really expensive. Not to mention the cost of renting the tow plane. Well, if you don't have an airplane, which are expensive, there you go, you have to use another method. And this is where the winch comes in. So, will it do an effective job that can almost equal what a tow plane can do? So, to explain it simply, like a machine which reels in a rope using a giant motor. And the glider is connected to the end of the rope, which is lifted to a great height to make it take off, just like the kites that are flown in on New Year's. So in a sense, what they're going to try to do is that this winch is going to catapult the glider into the sky. So as the winch is reeling in the cable at a really fast speed, the glider is going to go really fast down the runway, and that's going to generate lift for it to go airborne. And by the time the glider reaches a certain height, they're going to unhook the cable. And I'm sure that's around the time when the pilot feels like the winch is pulling the airplane down from the sky. So the difference is that the glider is huge and quite heavy, and naturally the winch has to be big as well.
最初はフルパワーで、機体が地面から約30度に達したら徐々にパワーを緩めていって。
Okay, so once it's at a certain height, we can turn down the power for the winch. And that could give pilots more time to disconnect the cable. So Amane is teaching Kotori how to use the winch. So she already explained this a few days ago, and we tried operating it before, so now it's just a recap. So our roles for today are that Amane and I are pilots, Kotori operates the winch, and Ageha helps with takeoff and landing, as well as ground control. So, by the way, the winch isn't as expensive as a plane, but it appears to be quite pricey. Well, it's pricey because it's a big machine. It probably uses high-quality steel and lots of metals like copper for those motor windings. And you want to have it heavy-duty. You want to have it last. And obviously that's going to cost money to make it a robust machine. So it was used by previous members of the Soaring Club, has been maintained now, and now will actually be put into use. So it's been in service for many years. And so there you go. It's like this machine is built to be robust, built to last, reliable, and that's why it costs a lot initially. Well, to be honest, the equipment here goes way beyond the scope of high school club activities. And I wonder how they were able to finance or purchase this, because I'm pretty sure there's not enough budget from the school to buy this machine.
オッケー、わかったわ。
Well, anyways, time for flight.
それじゃ、離陸準備に入ろう。
Alright. So we walk back from the winch towards the aircraft. It's about a kilometer away, so it takes a while. Amane gets into the front seat, and following her, I get into the back seat.
シートベルト、しっかり締めてね。
So seatbelts. So as Ageha tells me to do this, I check the seatbelt several times. So make sure the seatbelt itself is not damaged, and it clicks in and is secure.
ペダルに足は届いているか？動かしにくい部分はないか？
So adjust your seats, make sure you can comfortably reach all the controls. Okay? So the canopy, the transparent lid that covers the cockpit is closed.
キャノピーがロックされているか確認してくれ。
Okay, so let's see. Canopy is secure. It locks. Okay? And I checked the lock. So if it's not properly locked, it may open during flight, which is really dangerous. So mine performs the final check of the flight controls. And inside the canopy, Ageha checks the rope extending from the winch and connected to the glider.
先輩、レリースのチェックをお願いします。
And so make sure you can open the canopy. It doesn't stay locked. So Mane operates the release lever, and immediately the hook holding the rope is released. And if it isn't released, it's possible that a big accident could occur, so it must be checked before landing. So things like, well, make sure you can open it, so in case of an accident, you can easily escape from it.
オーケーです。
So Ageha gives a signal from the outside and connects the tow rope once again. And we suddenly feel a lot more nervous. Okay, so pretty soon we're going to be airborne, so now the aircraft will fly through the air. And it still doesn't feel real. So for a start, could an aircraft that we made ourselves really fly? Well, there's no engine and it can't even flap its wings like a bird. So will it really be alright? So I've had the theory explained to me many times, but you don't get a feeling for what it really is like from theory alone. If you want that, the only way is to fly it. And finally, we can fly. Okay, so take off. Amane?
大丈夫。怖くない、怖くない。みんなが作ってくれた翼は、私のなんかよりずっと優れている。だから大丈夫。
Okay, so we built it better, so you should be okay. It won't snap off like it did previously.
さっき小鳥が恐怖心を追い払ってくれたし。でも、いざとなったら頼んだぞ、葵くん。
And you're a better pilot than me, so I'm counting on you. So leave it all to me. And this is why I trained on the simulator until I got sick of it. In my head, I go over the steps for takeoff. And the most dangerous part of the flight is landing. However, the takeoff is also dangerous and accidents can easily occur. So one of the things is that, well, if the takeoff does have a problem, are they able to abort it safely without causing problems? And this time, I can rely on Amane, but I need to learn to understand even a little about how it is done. So Ageha taps the canopy from outside. So ready? So Amane and I replied, ready, and Ageha walked around to the side of the aircraft and lifted up the left wing that was in contact with the ground, and the aircraft became level. And the wings of a glider are really long, and it can't stand on its own wheels like a normal plane, so it is placed with one of the wings touching on the ground. And that's why when launching it someone has to run along holding the wing until it gains lift. So Ageha, who is holding up the wing, gives the signal that launch preparations are complete to Kotori, who is waiting far away. Okay, so here it comes. As Amane speaks out quietly to me. Okay, so it looks like takeoff. The aircraft suddenly lifts up, and pulled by the winch, the glider quickly accelerates. The wheels bounce along the unpaved runway. Ageha runs along while holding the left wing, and I look at her from the side and our eyes meet. And it looks like the glider is airborne. So a few seconds after the aircraft started moving along the runway, I felt like it was floating upwards. And that was after only moving along a few meters. And when it had started to float slightly while accelerating, Amane pulled back on the yoke, and the aircraft went upwards. I don't know what angle it was, but I felt like it was a really steep angle. Alright, so they are officially airborne, and I'm going to go ahead and stop here for this episode. I kind of stretched it a little bit because I wanted the entire takeoff sequence to be in this episode. So, when Amane was kind of afraid of taking flight in this glider, it's because she'd flown it before, and the last time she'd flown it, she ran into accidents, and she was lucky to survive, but the wings didn't survive. And hopefully this time the wings, they're built with better craftsmanship by Ageha and Kotori, and they will withstand all the forces, and they're able to land this aircraft or glider without any troubles. So next episode we're going to see how their first flight goes. And if you have flown on a real jet, you can see that before the airplane takes off, the pilots, they go through all these checks. They actually walk around and make sure all the components, even the engine fans, are in good shape. The suspension is good for the wheels. And as the plane is taxiing down to the runway, you can see all those spoilers lift up. You can see the ailerons moving. And obviously, at takeoff, the pilots, they're constantly monitoring the instruments as the plane rolls down the runway. And if there's anything wrong, the pilots have a chance to abort the takeoff. And there is a speed of no return called V1. And once the pilots exceed that V1 speed, they have to take off. And if there's any problems that they find afterwards, they actually fly into the sky and they circle around and land back at the airport. So, with all that in mind, let's see what happens with their first flight in the next episode.